Hi, friends. Today I'm going to be reading chapter 4 from Indian Shoes. You heard chapter 3 last time. Mrs. Lorendi read chapter 3 to you. And at the end of chapter 3, we learned that Ray ends up getting a pet ferret by the name of Bandit. He names it Bandit. And if you remember, Grandpa Half Moon and Ray end up going to all the neighbors' homes and bringing the pets over because Ray is really worried that they're going to get cold because there's a power outage. So, chapter 4 is called The Accident. You can see it, The Accident. And I'm going to read the first sentence, then I'm going to pause, and I want us to kind of really look at the first sentence because the author, Cynthia Smith, is actually doing something beautiful with that first sentence, and we're going to think about what's happening. So, The Accident. Grandpa Half Moon's hand felt sure on Ray's shoulder, guiding him down the cracked sidewalk from school toward their red brick bungalow. And so I actually wrote this down just so we can actually see it and talk about it a little. So Grandpa Half Moon's hand felt sure on Ray's shoulder, guiding him down the cracked sidewalk from school toward their red brick bungalow. Something really beautiful that the author has done here is created imagery. And imagery really has to do with using your senses so that the reader can actually see what the author is reading in their mind. It's kind of like making a movie. So here we can actually see Grandpa putting his hand on Ray's shoulder, guiding him down the sidewalk, and not just any sidewalk, but a sidewalk that has a crack in it, right? And then thinking about how they're walking from the school into the red brick bungalow. The R has disappeared. Red brick bungalow, right? So this is imagery. So when we write as authors, it's really important that we use interesting words to get the movie going in our readers' minds, okay? And we're going to be talking about imagery also in the next couple of units of poetry and fairy tale writing, which are coming up, okay? I'm just going to read that again. Grandpa Half Moon's hand felt sure on Ray's shoulder, guiding him down the cracked sidewalk from school toward their red brick bungalow. That afternoon, the bus stop looked run down. The trash can band banged, ratter ratter clip plop, and Annie's children's bookstore was closed for remodeling. But Ray didn't mind. He was too excited. It's an art contest, he told Grandpa. For all the kids in the city, the 3 big winners' pictures are going to be hung up in the window of a store on State Street. Grandpa grinned. I guess that means you'll be entering. Maybe I'll win a blue ribbon, Ray said. We could take the L train to see my picture and maybe grab some hot dogs. Your mama loved to paint, Grandpa said. She'd paint the side of a barn or a barn on a canvas. Then, he promised Ray that they'd get some hot dogs, win or lose. Ray held out his hand to seal the deal, and Grandpa shook it. After finishing up his math homework, Ray decided it was time to paint. Bandit, the ferret, perched on Ray's shoulder, watching him dip the paintbrush in a Dixie cup of clear water. Ray had placed one of Grandpa Half Moon's moccasins on the bookshelf beside his antique desk. He stared at it a few minutes and then moved the brush wand to cover the bristles with brown paint. Before long, Ray had created a blob on his paper. He squinted at it this way and that, wondering if the blob could pass for a shoe. Just then, Grandpa shuffled into the room in his slippers and plaid pajamas. Not noticing his own moccasin, he remarked, My, that's a fine potato. Ray turned off his brass desk lamp, scrambled under his woolly blanket, and tried not to show his hurt feelings. Remember, he's not really trying to paint a potato. He's actually trying to paint that moccasin, right? He knew Grandpa would have never said anything to make him feel bad on purpose. Ray just couldn't paint like his mama had. After Grandpa had kissed his forehead and shuffled out, Ray listened to the rain whisper against his stained glass window. It's okay, he thought. I've got until Friday. The next day after supper, Bandit hid a stinky sock behind the bookshelves as Ray sharpened his pencil, set out a cup of water, and placed a fresh sheet of paper on his antique desk. Searching for inspiration, Ray spotted a book titled Dinosaur. He flipped through until finding a photo he liked and then carefully sketched a fierce T-Rex. It didn't quite look like the skeleton shown in the book, but Ray could tell what it was. That's no potato, he thought, dipping the bristles of the paintbrush into the water. Ray's book said that some scientists thought dinosaurs came in bright colors, like the lizards of today. The idea struck Ray as a good one, and he had traced the pencil outline in bright orange paint. Better, Ray thought. I'm getting better at this. Excited, Ray plopped the brush back in the Dixie cup, turning the water bright orange. Then he rolled the bristles in red paint to fill in the T-Rex's form. The second his brush hit the paper, Ray knew he'd made a mistake. Too much water. Red paint puddled in the middle of the dino body, then streamed off in all directions. Using his brush, Ray tried to direct the flow, but it was of no use. His fierce T-Rex had bloomed into a sunny marigold. He studied the flower as it dried. Problem is, Ray thought, I'm not much of a marigold kind of guy. On Wednesday night, Ray set up another Dixie cup of water and another fresh sheet of paper. Then he sketched a fiery sun, a towering oak, and a red brick bungalow with a stained glass window on one side and smoke coming out of the chimney. When he dipped his paintbrush into the cup, Ray carefully used just the right amount of water. He cleaned the bristles between colors, stopping to change the water in his cup twice. Finally satisfied, Ray let the masterpiece dry under his brass desk lamp. Grandpa shuffled in, whistling long and low. You sure outdid yourself there. If those judges don't put a blue ribbon on that one, they don't know nothing. But you're running late for bedtime, so get yourself into bed and I'll be your cleanup crew. As Grandpa tucked Ray beneath his woolly blanket, Bandit climbed up onto the antique desk to see the masterpiece for himself. As he scurried toward the lamp, Bandit's tail brushed against the Dixie cup. It toppled, rolling, spilling, splashing, plummeting off the desk and onto the hardwood floor below. Murky water flooded Ray's newly finished painting. Colors swirled and darkened. The paper was soaked through. The fiery sun, the red brick house, the towering oak tree vanished into a big, wet, splotchy, ugly brown mess. Bandit! Ray exclaimed as the culprit escaped to the bookshelves. Grandpa Half Moon took off to the kitchen for paper towels, but Ray just sat up in bed and shook his head. When Grandpa got back, Ray said, Now I'll never win. What's that? Grandpa Half Moon asked, wiping up the water that had spilled onto Ray's desktop. Ray pulled his blanket up to his chin. I've only got one day left. I give up. Ray half expected Grandpa Half Moon to give him a pep talk. Instead, Grandpa answered, Too bad. I was sure looking forward to that hot dog, win or lose, but I guess we won't be going downtown at all then. On Thursday night, Ray carried Bandit into the family room, filled a Dixie cup with water, returned to his own bedroom, and locked the door behind him. I've come this far, Ray thought. I might as well see it through. He wanted that hot dog, and he didn't want to disappoint Grandpa. As he set the cup down on his antique desk, rain began to whisper against the stained glass window. The shing sound made Ray settle down a bit and rethink how he wanted to go about putting together his contest entry. He stared at his ruined masterpiece still sitting in the middle of his desk. The night before, Grandpa just hadn't had the heart to throw it out. Amid the dried brown puddle, Ray could see a bit of gold of the sun, the red of the brick, and the green of the leaves. He set the painting to one side, then got out a fresh piece of paper. He glanced around the room and noticed that Grandpa's moccasin was still perched on his bookshelf. For a long time, his gaze shifted between the blank page and the ruined picture. Ray thought back to how he'd wanted to do a painting of one of Grandpa's moccasins. That way, he figured it'd kind of be like the picture belonged to both of us. Then he took a sip of water from the Dixie cup and began digging through his desk drawer for the rounded scissors and a bottle of glue. Wonder why he's getting scissors and glue. I'm not going to show Grandpa when I'm done, Ray thought. I'll let it be a surprise. 2 weeks later, so now we're fast forwarding in time. 2 weeks later, Ray and Grandpa took the rattling L train to State Street, stopped by a hot dog stand for lunch, and then joined the sidewalk crowd gawking at the city's best kids' art, proudly displayed in a fancy schmancy department store window. Ray's entry wasn't a painting. It was a collage. That makes sense, right? He used scissors and glue. That makes sense. That last night before the deadline, Ray had turned his ruined painting into something else. He'd used his rounded scissors to cut the painting into geometric shapes. With his pencil, he'd outlined the shape of one of Grandpa Half Moon's moccasins. Then he'd fill in the outline with multicolored shapes to create shadows and textures to show how warm and strong the moccasin was, how it could make Grandpa feel like home. A dab of glue here and there, and suddenly Ray had created his entry. But that's not what made Ray smile. It was the way Grandpa pointed and yelled to the crowd, "That's my shoe! That's my shoe!" Everybody in the crowd looked down at Grandpa's boots, but they didn't know what he was yelling about. But Ray did. Even though his ribbon read third place, he felt like a first place winner. So we hope you enjoyed that chapter. In your writing folder in Google Classroom, there's going to be a document with, again, this whole story that you're hearing. You probably have it open right now. And underneath it are going to be some questions that we have for you about what you just heard. So one of the things that we've been talking about are following characters very closely in a story and looking at their traits to see if we notice any kind of patterns. Are we noticing something about Ray in Indian Shoes about the way he is? Are we noticing that he has a certain type of a personality trait, right? That is continuing from chapter 1, 2, and 3. So we're halfway through the book. And so soon what we're going to do is think about theories. A theory, meaning what kind of a person is Ray? Ray is the kind of person that is. And so that is going to be coming up soon. But we'd like you to think about that. So if you'd like to hear the story again, this chapter again, you can just rewind it and hear it. And then if you can answer the questions that are on this document in the writing folder, on the writing document, that would be great. We look forward to your responses. We hope you're enjoying the story, and we'll see you soon. Bye.